A few weeks ago, someone sent me this video commenting on Mike Black's impressive achievement of going from $0 to $1 million in a year. Mike Black is a millionaire who went homeless on purpose. After building a decent amount of wealth as an entrepreneur, Mike decided to challenge himself and see if he could make $1 million in a year at a time when COVID took a toll on small businesses and put many people in extreme poverty. Throughout his journey, Mike faced many obstacles but managed to stay focused and actually made a good amount of money. The message of this video and this experiment in general is that one, with enough hard work and determination, anybody, whatever their present situation is, can become a millionaire. And two, that no traditional jobs will bring you there. You have to be your own boss. You have to follow your instinct to fulfill your purpose. Come on. Of course, there is a lot of things to unpack here, especially with the first statement. Obviously no, it is very unlikely for someone to go from homeless to millionaire in a year. Mike used his experience as an entrepreneur, as someone who's business oriented, to generate his new fortune. On top of that, he looks quite employable according to employability standards. And most importantly, he knew that whatever the outcome of the experiment, his future was secured. He had the option to drop out, but most homeless people, most people in extreme poverty don't have this option. Nevertheless, we have to recognize that Mike is very good at what he's doing. He accumulated wealth bits by bits, reselling free couches, listed on Craigslist, working as a telemarketer, a virtual assistant at a law firm, then sold coffee online, invested the money in risky projects that paid off and grew his business exponentially. At some point during the experiment, he thanks Big Tech because they gave him the platform and knowledge to grow. He couldn't have achieved this goal with a traditional job, no matter how prestigious it may have been. The richest people in the world are usually business leaders, and in return, their wealth is presented as a result of their hard work, their passion. We'll often hear billionaires argue that they became so successful because they went against the odds, they figured out their purpose, kind of encouraging us to also find that purpose so that one day we'll be as passionate and wealthy as all of them. I mean, the few of them. Multiple times during the experiment, Mike asserted that beyond the 1 million target, his goal was to help people, to inspire them to take action and control over their lives. By going back to a state of extreme precariousness, Mike really tried to emulate the rags to riches narrative. Every other year, we'll hear about the story of a homeless person who was singing in the subway and it got viral on social media, or this single mum who only slept 4 hours a night to kickstart her online business that now makes millions. The popularity of the stories is almost self-destructive because, yeah, sure, like you get a feeling of empathy when you see them, you get happy for a second, but then you remember that, well, you didn't do that. You don't have the guts to do that. You don't deserve to be happy or successful because you did not put enough efforts into it. Those little instances of meritocracy is what keeps our system alive. If they did it, you can do it too. The system is not rigged against you. Another example, recently The Guardian posted this picture of Haider Malik, a 24-year-old banking and finance graduate who decided to go out in public with his whiteboard and let commuters and potential recruiters approach him. Apparently that's now what you have to do to get a decent job. Actually, someone commented that it would be interesting to see how humanities students would have performed. Let us do our commentary videos in the comfort of our bedrooms, thank you. Jokes aside, it's actually quite depressing. It's no longer about your degrees, your education, it's more about you as a brand, how you present yourself as an individual in the public space. Malik is confident, serious, positive, and polite. I'm honestly not surprised he got his job quite easily as soon as he did that. We like people who get out of their comfort zone, who stay positive when facing rejection. Yet it goes beyond the physical appearance and your body language. Now, your hobbies, your potential involvement in charity work, that self-improvement summit you went to last year, these are the things that you want to put on a CV. That's hustle culture. Everything you do outside of work ultimately serves to further your brand, to further your career. As part of his plan to build wealth, Mike created a coffee brand. But unless you're Emma Chamberlain, your coffee won't sell by itself. And Mike knew that. And so he decided to promote that he would donate a portion of the profits to a dog charity. Ethical capitalism is great, amazing. Buy coffee, save a dog. Yeah, that's what we want. By doing so, Mike legitimizes his endless thirst for money, something that is usually looked down upon. Later, during the experiment, Mike learns that his dad has been diagnosed with terminal cancer, which ultimately shifts his experiment from a cute little challenge to an actual necessity, supporting his family. Here it brings us back to one of the components of the American dream, namely the opportunity for prosperity and success, as well as an upward social mobility and security for the family. This ethos forged an entire socio-economic system that was exported worldwide. When Margaret Thatcher, a fervent advocate of neoliberalism, said that there's no such thing as society, there are only individual men and women and their families. Well, she echoes that sentiment, that ethos. Mike's story is very coherent with what we have just explained. He cannot rely on society to survive. From his early homeless days to the announcement of his father's disease, the idea of state support is so foreign to him that he doesn't even think about it for a second. On the other hand, and as we mentioned earlier, Mike's repeats multiple times during the experiment that he's so grateful that big tech exists. Now, how did we reach a point where big tech appears for many as the only way out of poverty? And also, or the question to transition to the second part, how did we reach a point where for many big tech appears as the only way to have a fulfilling job? Come on. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, 4 million Americans quit their jobs in July 2021. The Great Resignation, as it was later called, spread worldwide. On the internet, the anti-work movement grew. On YouTube, see how I bring everything back to YouTube? Very nice little database for research nerds like me. Anyway, on YouTube, people started posting videos sharing how and why they didn't dream of labor. Some didn't dream of any form of labor, others didn't dream of the typical 9-to-5 job. This trend was heavily criticized for being a very privileged people discussion. What about those who cannot afford to quit their job? What about the future of our economy? What's gonna happen? How are we gonna grow if people don't work anymore? I always find these concerns quite funny, especially the last one. It's like, there is no society, there are only individuals, so don't expect the state to support you in any way. But as soon as you hint that you don't want to work anymore, you want to relax, well, there is a society and you have to contribute to its growth. Now, whilst the anti-work movement is of course very different from hustle culture, the message often remains quite similar: follow your passion, follow your purpose. And once again, big tech is usually a big part of it. I mean, who am I to say the opposite? I make videos on YouTube, so technically I work for Google. Whatever the passion is, turning it into a job implies that there will be some sort of monetizing, some concessions to big tech or capitalism, as much as you hate them. The passion is commodified because you just want to survive. I'm saying all of that because the anti-work movement is, at its core, anti-capitalist. I really like the I don't dream of labor trend because it sparked discussions around hustle culture. People who weren't particularly engaged in politics in the past started to talk about things like universal basic income, about shorter work weeks, about individuals' rights to have time for hobbies, for leisure. In November, Portugal banned calls from bosses to employees outside working hours, and now Democrats in the US are talking about a 4 days work week. So it's not just an internet trend, it's actually turning into political action. Yet those little reforms are kind of band-aid solutions. If we go back to the I don't dream of labor trend, well, most content creators argued that every individual should have the right to pursue their passion. Now, if we realistically want that to happen, we're gonna have to change our socio-economic system so that anyone can survive while pursuing their passion or whatever they want to do with their life. I'm not gonna lie, I really struggled to write this script because I didn't have any answer to provide to the question of how do we create a realistic socio-economic model where people have the right to work or not, and if they want to work, that they can pursue something that is fulfilling for them. In an interview he gave to The Economist, left-wing thinker, anthropologist David Graeber said, "Just think what kind of culture, music, science, ideas might result if people were liberated to do things they actually thought were important. So if the question is one of personal responsibility, I'd say, let's just give everyone enough to live on, some sort of universal basic income, and say, okay, you're all free now to decide for yourself what you have to contribute to the world. Then sure, we could say that people would be responsible for what they came up with, and sure, a lot of it would be nonsense. But it's hard to imagine a full 40 or 50% would be doing nonsense. And that's the situation that we have today. And if we get even 1 or 2 new Miles Davises or Einsteins or Freuds or Shakespeare's out of the deal, I'd say we'd have more than made back our investment. A topic that is recurring in discussions around anti-work is the concept of bullshit jobs, coined by Graeber himself to refer to jobs ranging from doorman and receptionist to lobbyist and public relations specialist, through to those in legal profession, particularly corporate lawyers and legal consultants. So previously, when Graeber said that 40 to 50% of current jobs are nonsense, well, he's referring to those BS jobs. What Graeber said is that those jobs are only useful in the context of our economic system, but they are not really benefiting society in any way. So yeah, I have questions, and that's why this is a discussion with you guys. What do we do about that? What do we do about those BS jobs? And what do we do about the low-paid workers who found a job as a cleaner, security guard, in whatever BS job structure they work at? I guess an answer to that, and something that Green New Deal supporters have advocated for, is huge investments in training people towards green jobs. But is the green aspect of that job sufficient to generate fulfillment among workers? And also, how much agency do those low-paid workers have in choosing their new job? So maybe a way to improve that would be to guarantee free education for all and zero-interest student loans, so that education is not an investment but a right. But yeah, that's a lot of money, a lot of investing. Some of you might be like, where's all that money, Alice? And to that, I'll answer with another question. Where did all the money our governments used to bail out banks since the first economic crisis in the early 20th century come from? Second question I have, kind of related to the first one, is if everybody can pursue what they want to pursue in life, who's going to do the job that no one wants to do? So sure, automation will progressively take over those repetitive, tiring jobs, but how about those who won't be replaced? And how about those who will be replaced despite people being passionate about them? See, lots of questions, but what I failed to realize until it clicked that other night is that the answer to my question is the question itself. Ooh, that was deep. As Frederick Jameson and Zizek argued, we don't really know who said it first, it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. And so my failure to answer those questions is probably because I still struggle to imagine a future outside of capitalism, simply because capitalism has become the answer for everything. It's within us, it's in our way of thinking, of interacting with people. It's the reason why Mike and many content creators like me decided to do our own thing to find fulfillment in the job we do. Because there isn't any support, state support, for people who want to pursue creative, alternative projects, and crowdfunding is very often not enough to compensate the time and effort put into it. Mark Fisher coined the term capitalist realism to address this state of inertia and submission to capitalism we are in today, despite the recognition of its many flaws. He defines capitalist realism as the widespread sense that not only is capitalism the only viable political and economic system, but also that it is now impossible even to imagine a coherent alternative to it. We know things are bad, but more important than that, we've been persuaded that we cannot do anything about it. The persistence of that belief through time creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. But there are alternatives. There was a pre-capitalism, there will be a post-capitalism, and it's our job to make sure that the post-version doesn't turn into an even less equal and money-driven system. Yet according to left-wing thinker and former politician Yanis Varoufakis, we are already moving on to something new, what he calls techno-feudalism, where markets and market competition, so capitalism, is replaced by the monopoly of tech platforms, so techno-feudalism. He used the example of Amazon as a village where shops aren't competing solely for their own profit. They are all part of a platform that collects the profit made from their sales, derived from competition, like a king collecting taxes among peasants of his kingdom. The chances of getting as powerful and wealthy as those kings are very thin, and diminish with time as their wealth increase. So techno-feudalism is a new concept, and I think other thinkers will probably work on it, improve it, change it a bit, I don't know. But I think this idea, this concept, is quite relevant to what's been happening in the past decade. And I think it's time we actually do something about it, because shorter work weeks or no phone calls after work from bosses to employees won't help much at this point. So here we are, I guess. I'm happy we had this discussion. I can't wait to see what you have to say in the comments. Feel free to recommend any books, any scientific articles in general that might help us find answers to our endless questions. That's it for today. Had a lot of fun filming this one. I'm very happy today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, if it's not done already. Thank you to my Patreons for their support. A special thank to Joshua, Carla, James, and Emmanuel Jazz. And yeah, I'm going on a little break, as I told you, till early mid-January. So take care of yourself, take care of your family, have a good time, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Salut!
Come on.